The future of the Los Angeles Rams is very blurry right now, and at first I was very optimistic. You looked at this entire team taking a big time step forward, especially on the defensive end, losing Aaron Donald, but having this young defensive line with Byron Young and Jared Verse and Kobe Turner, and so many of these guys really step up, especially in the postseason when it mattered the most. And I thought, okay, you have this defense that's taking a big time step forward. We know how great this offense is. We know what Sean McVay brings to the table as arguably the best head coach in the entire NFC. And then you have Matthew Stafford, arguably the best quarterback in the NFC. And I've been telling you guys, if you have that type of duo that is the best in a conference, you're going to win a lot of football games. And that's what we saw with the Rams. They went 10-7 this season. They beat down on the Vikings in the wild card round. And really, in my opinion, gave the Eagles the best shot that they were given throughout the entire postseason. They were only about 2 snaps away if Jalen Carter doesn't sack Matthew Stafford on that final drive, and then they have that incompletion. Man, they were right there from beating the Philadelphia Eagles on the road. And then you look back at that entire game, if they don't have 2 or 3 huge explosive runs that really shift the entire momentum and the pendulum with how that game is going, Los Angeles can definitely win it. But for LA, they have a lot of things to figure out before they go forward, because we see that they're now going to trade Cooper Kupp. They have told him that, hey, this is nothing that, you're doing. We want to trade you. And you look at Cooper Kupp over the past 3 seasons. He hasn't played a full season. He hasn't hit 1,000 yards since he was the Triple Crown winner. This has not been the same Cooper Kupp, whether you like it or not, over the past 3 seasons. And I do agree that he is one of the premier wide receivers in the league when he's healthy. But I think the Rams have noticed this trend and pattern with him and are ready to elevate Puka Nacua into this main number 1 receiver role. And I think it's going to give him a little more flexibility. It's going to give him another option to try and maybe bring in another receiver, maybe give Demarcus Robinson a little bit more of the load. But I don't hate that as much as I hate the Matthew Stafford buzz that's been kind of swirling over the past few days. We see his wife, Kelly Stafford, talking on her podcast about how, hey, why are you, trading Cooper Kupp, a guy that was so vital and instrumental to this team? And, we were only a few plays away from beating a team that, won the Super Bowl. And then she posts on Instagram the other day a picture of her and Matthew Stafford sitting down eating dinner, and she does like this blurry filter on them, and in the captions she says, future might be blurry, but the present is always clear with you. And a lot of people read that as kind of like a cryptic post. What is Matthew's future going to look like with the Rams? And over the past few weeks, she hasn't necessarily reassured the team with both of those posts. So it seems like potentially maybe the Stafford family is very upset about the departure of Cooper Kupp, a team that was really 1 or 2 plays away from making it to the NFC Championship, and I'd give them a really good shot at beating the Commanders. And we know that they won a Super Bowl only a few years ago in LA. And this dynamic offense is in need of a true gunslinger like Matthew Stafford, in my opinion. You cannot expect to replicate any of this season if you move on from Matthew Stafford, if you're the Los Angeles Rams. And I know that they've been so great at replacing different holes and different needs on this team. When Aaron Donald left, you're losing one of the greatest defensive players of all time. And they really focused on drafting D-line pieces over the past few years, and boy, did it work. When they finally had that first round pick this last year, they drafted Jared Verse, this superstar rookie who won Defensive Player of the Year. Not to mention they also picked up his partner in crime at Florida State, Braden Fisk, who's another guy that could have easily won Defensive Player of the Year. But this Rams team, they've done a great job with Les Snead at drafting different guys, different replacements. We saw Puka was taken in the 5th round, I believe. You see so many hidden gems. Cooper Kupp, a 4th rounder. Like, he's so great at finding hidden gems in the draft. But in this type of draft that's coming up here in April, the quarterback talent is not good enough to replace a guy like Matthew Stafford. Now, obviously, we all know that Matthew Stafford is a Hall of Famer. He's a Super Bowl champion. He is an elite quarterback, still at 37 years old, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But this is not a strong quarterback draft class. This is not a year you want to say, hey, Matt, we're going to move on from you, my man, because you're looking at Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, who are probably both going to go inside of the top 5, and LA right now is staring down the barrel of the 26th overall pick. So unless they want to try and get really aggressive for one of those 2 guys, which I don't see happening, they're going to try and have to hope a guy like maybe Jackson Dart falls to them, maybe a guy like Will Howard. But I mean, these scouts for a reason, aren't necessarily fired up over these guys. And I just think it's a big risk for the Rams. They have to have realistically, their eyes on a quarterback that they absolutely love, because if they don't, you're really losing out on Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and then you're going to bring in a rookie quarterback who is just such a big question mark to this Rams team, especially with what they're building when they're kind of bringing in this new young core. If you're the Rams, I say you keep Matthew Stafford around as long as possible. At 37 years old, I still think he is the best quarterback in the NFC. You can now make a realistic argument that Jalen Hurts is the best with that Super Bowl win and Super Bowl MVP. But regardless, Matthew Stafford at 37 has been unbelievable. And for a team that went 10-7, you look at that 1-4 start, they could be a lot better if they weren't so banged up throughout that stretch. I mean, they had that overtime loss to Detroit where they were down 4 offensive linemen. Puka got hurt. I want to say Kupp got hurt in that game as well. They got the brakes beat off of them against Arizona. But you look at that loss to Chicago on the road by only 6 points, that loss to Green Bay by only 5 points. They were very banged up, and then they'd really heat up in that second part of the schedule, would win a lot of ball games, would get to 10-7, and shoot, they would have been 11-6 if they didn't even rest their guys the last week of the season. So like this Rams team could have realistically been a 13-win squad this year, and I think we would be talking about them in a different light. But regardless, they beat a team in Minnesota that had 14 wins on the year, had an incredible season, and with all of these circumstances and all of the tragedy that happened in LA, they had to go play in Arizona. And I was at that game. Let me tell you, that was not a home game for the Rams at all. There were so many Vikings fans there. Like, I just think this Rams team is not looked at in a good way right now because nobody wants to take them seriously. Like, nobody wants to look at Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and be like, oh man, that's the premier team in the NFC. No, you're looking at Jaden Daniels. You're looking at the flash of the Commanders. You're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles now having won the Super Bowl. You're looking at the Detroit Lions. You're looking at Minnesota, 2 teams that won 15, 14 ball games. Like, nobody's really giving the Rams the props and flowers that they deserve. But man, look at that Philadelphia game. They were only 6 points away. They were the closest team to beating the Super Bowl champs. And the only way they're going to be able to do it is with Matthew Stafford. It's plain and simple. Matthew Stafford is the only guy, in my opinion, that is good enough in the NFC to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Plain and simple. Like, we saw the performance that he had against them. And, this defense is going to have to be better at stopping the run because Saquon is so good. And just in general, they're going to have to be better at stopping the run. But, man, this offense, it's one of the best in the NFL. Like, Kyren Williams is an elite running back when he's not fumbling the football. Puka Nacua, we all know how great he is. I'd say he's a top 10 receiver right now. And I think that's why the Rams are ready to make this transition from Kupp to Puka really being the full-time guy. And then Matthew Stafford at 37, still unbelievable. And, when this offensive line is healthy, they can get the job done. And Sean McVay is one of the best head coaches in the NFL. He's just so unbelievable. So I think this Rams team, they're going to have to get their business in order. I feel like this isn't the first time that we've seen like a little bit of like almost rumblings or cryptic messages from Kelly Stafford and that side of the crew. I think it'll all get worked out. I think Matthew Stafford will be a Ram next year. I do not think that Cooper Kupp will be a Ram next year, but this team, I do think they need to go get another receiver because Puka's been a little banged up over the past few seasons, but I still think this Rams squad is in a great position to go but win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. Honestly, I still think they can go win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford, but they're going to have to shore up that front 7, go get some better linebackers in free agency in the draft. But I trust Les Snead. I trust his big brain. I trust what he's doing. And I think that this Rams team will be back in a great position next year. Like, this team got bit hard with the injury bug, and they were still able to persevere, get back to the postseason. So it's going to be an exciting offseason for the Rams. But at the end of the day, they have to keep Matthew Stafford above all else. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Caden Kubler, and thank you guys so much for watching.